This is a tutorial for soldering these ceramic capacitors for use as condensers in points ignition. This is how the condensers come in their package. I get them from DigiKey. They're rated at 0.22 microfarad at 1000 kilovolts. This is the packaging that they come in. As a disclaimer, there are many ways to solder these capacitors. This is just a method that I found works for me and the motors that I have run them in. You will need the capacitors, a soldering iron. This is a Miniware TS101 soldering iron, mainly used for electronic parts. I run at 350 degrees and 65 watts. You don't necessarily need a soldering iron quite like this. I just like to use it and it makes it easier. You need a pair of strippers, some wire, a cutter for those wire, some solder. This is rosin core solder. It's imperative that you use that style of solder. About 60-40 lead and tin. And some heat shrink. This is 5/16 heat shrink at a 4:1 shrink ratio. I find that is what works best. And if you happen to have one, a pair of helping hands makes the job much easier. And also something to clean off your soldering iron. I cut my wire in about 3-inch sections. Strip off the ends of your wire. You'll need a little bit showing. I'm using 16 gauge wire, by the way, stranded. Heat up your wire and tin it. I found that quite a big glob of solder on the end of the wire makes it much easier to solder in the end. Just like that. I have the end of the capacitor facing up, just like this, and you want to solder to the end right there, into the capacitor right there. Go ahead and add some solder to your iron, and you want to touch the iron to the capacitor for the least amount of time as possible. Just have it on there long enough to get it flowing, and enough solder so that when you touch the wire and the capacitor together with the soldering iron, it flows just about immediately. So now go ahead and take the end of your wire with the big glob of solder on the end, hold it to the end, put your soldering iron in between it so that both of them melt. There you go. Just like that. I got the other side soldered as well. So now take your heat shrink, find about the size that you want it. I'd say about there. Get your heat. and then you are all done. Strip the end of the wire here and here, and put them where your capacitor would be. These capacitors are non-polar, so it does not matter which side goes to ground, which side goes to the points. Hope you found this video helpful, and you now have a good replacement for capacitors.